Okay. Well, good evening and welcome to another Conversations with the Superintendent. We're glad to have everyone here. Today we have it a little bit differently. Usually we do 45 minutes and then another 45 minutes in Spanish, and we try to say the same information. Tonight, what we are doing, just to give us a little bit more time, is we're streaming this simultaneously. So we'll be speaking all in English, but if you are needing it in Spanish, you should be on a different stream. And I'm going to say that in Spanish as well for people that are watching. So normalmente tenemos dos tiempos diferentes, dos juntas diferentes, conversaciones diferentes. Tenemos uno en inglés, uno en español. Para poder dar más tiempo en lo que estamos hablando, vamos a hacerlo puramente en inglés, pero hay una línea en que puede escuchar, está traducido en español. So, por favor, de buscar nuestro, página de YouTube que está haciendo en español en este momento, si está queriendo escuchar esta plática, esta conversación en español. And so what we do is, so every 2 weeks we have a conversations with the superintendent. We try to pick topics that we think are important and pertinent to our community, our parents, and our staff. And I always have invited guests. So tonight I have with me 3 of my assistant superintendents, and they have some great information regarding back to school. So as you all know, we are coming back on August 17th. And so first I'd like to introduce Lisa Aguerria, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Kasey Klappenback, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Elementary. And Kristin Shouse, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Secondary. And always with me, our Public Information Officer, Alicia Jimenez. So tonight we have a lot of questions from parents and community. So we're excited to first share information. So how it works is we all share a little PowerPoint or a little information regarding topics that we've heard and that we see in the questions that you want information about. And then we have a short time in order to be able to also answer questions as well. So I'm going to be speaking first to some of our back to school efforts. So you hear a lot, we talk about educational equity. So what that means is that we are putting our time, resources, and attention to students and to our families that need the most support in order to have an equal playing field to access to college and career and success in life. And so in order to do that, what we believe is not going just down to the floor, but actually raising the ceiling. So what we chose to do this year is to provide each and every one of our students, each and every one of our families, not only with a Chromebook for their child, a hotspot if they don't have internet access, but also access to these back to school launch kits. And so I want to make sure that every single parent is aware that we created these kits. So the very people that are on this call right now, we spent all of Friday into late Friday night, all of Saturday and all of Sunday working with Expanded Cabinet, which is every single district level administrator to create these 20,000 kits for your children. So I want you to make sure and know what we are going to be providing, because you don't need to purchase them. What you need to do is just help support as quiet as possible learning space and the organization with your child. So I want to show you where it is. So I'm going to be sharing my screen so that I can show you on the website where it is. So here is our PVUSD website. Just so you know, it's on each one of the school websites as well. So you do not have to go to the district website, but if you would like to, it is pvusd.net. You will see in this top screen right up here, it's in English and Spanish, so you can click on it. If you click on that, it will tell you what is in each and every launch kit that we have, all the way from TK and kindergarten. And so you can see there's approximately 20 items for each one. Sometimes they have multiple of each, right? But you'll see that they're getting everything from scissors and crayons and erasers to making sure that we are providing journals and we are providing construction paper, because we want there to be a balance, not only a balance between being online and focused on the Chromebook, but also whether it's through art or through journaling, through math manipulatives. And some of these items, we have 2 sets that are going out, but some are in the back to school kit, and then you're also going to receive an enrichment kit, which will have the math manipulatives in it and some more of the art supplies. But we want to help ensure that students have some time away from the screen as well, and then some of it will be used during the time that they're working with their teachers as well. So this, you'll see as we move down the document, you'll see that it changes over time according to the grade level. And so you'll see that the journal becomes a composition notebook. You'll see that becomes some whiteboard markers and pens that you might not wind up seeing in the lower grades, such things as the black fine tip marker. And then it continues on all the way down to the secondary level, where you see that now instead of the watercolors, the older students are actually going to have the oil pastels when they receive the art and enrichment kit. And so I want to make sure that every parent knows that we're really focusing on the success of students through that. Also, on this very website, you will wind up finding information starting in a couple of days regarding our student meals. I want to make sure that people know, because there are some changes to the student meals. So these last 3 months, we've been able to focus on every single community member, every single child, from the littlest up 1-year-old all the way up to 18. We never had to ask what school they went to or if they belonged with PVUSD. Starting this school year, so starting on Monday the 17th, we are going to only be able to provide to students who are enrolled in PVUSD. So we're no longer able to open it up to the entire community. We will be having multiple pickup sites, and it will be open daily from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the first 2 weeks. So that's a little bit of a shift. So again, at the pickup sites, it will be from 7 to 10 a.m. Lastly, we do now have vegetarian entrees open to all, and you can get those in 2 locations across the district. One is at Lakeview and the other is at PV High. And we also will continue our support that we receive from Second Harvest Food Bank. And we ask, if you need a meal accommodation and you cannot get to Lakeview or PV High, we ask you to contact the Food and Nutrition Services, which is at 831, so our regular area code, 831-786-2325. And again, that's 786-2325 if you need a meal accommodation. The sites where it will be open we'll have 2 sites in Aptos, at Aptos Junior and Valencia. and then we have it at Amesti, Ansoldo, Calabasas, Cesar Chavez, EA Hall, Freedom, Hall District, Lakeview, Bajaro Middle, PV High, Starlight, and Watsonville High School. And so we wanted to make sure and provide that information to you because it is a little different than normal. And so I will go ahead and I will answer a few specific questions that we received from our community.
Yes, thank you, Doctora. I do want to say that this year there are 28 sites instead of 24 that qualify. All families, all students qualify for free lunch. So all of those 28 sites will get free lunch. For the other schools that do not qualify are Aptos High, Aptos Junior, Valencia, Rio del Mar, and Mar Vista. For families who think they qualify for free lunch, you must apply at those school sites, and the information is forthcoming for you. Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. One of the questions that came is from Maggie Hickey, a parent, and it says, why can't our tennis courts, track and pools be open at least for club sports and the public? There is little to no risk of sports in the sun, chlorine, and open air. It is ludicrous to have it shut down. Our kids' mental health is suffering. Would you be able to address that, Dr. Rodriguez?
Yes, of course. So we did begin about a month ago. We began conditioning for sports. We received initial approval in order to be able to open back up our facilities for our own students. So we did for about a week. We did have those open. We were required by the state to shut them down. So the state produced about a week and a half ago now an executive order which made us align to our to facilities to fitness centers. And so as you all know, Santa Cruz County is on the watch list, and so all of the fitness centers and their pools and their all their facilities are now shut down unless they have an outsourced store space, but their pools are shut down. And so we are no longer allowed to do the youth sports in terms of that conditioning. And there is, at this point, there is no ability to do adult sports as well. So we're waiting for the executive order on that. But because of that, all of our facilities are currently closed down due to that executive order.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Would you like to answer one more question from a parent, and then we can go on to Lisa? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So this is from a Spanish-speaking parent. How will I know who will be the teaching my son in school?
Okay. So as is done every year, there will be a listing that will be provided for parents where we are encouraging, we're going to do it first through Synergy, which is our student information system, because we're encouraging people to receive that message through Synergy first, so that they don't have to come out of their homes and they don't have to go to the school site where traditionally we have it all posted, because we don't want large group of parents congregating. The easiest way and the quickest way, because you'll know as soon as it is posted, is by making sure that you have an account on Synergy and that it's updated. Because if you have both your text, your phone number in there so we can provide you text messages, and you have your email in there, then you will be the first one to be able to know quickly about who your child is going to have as a teacher. And so I'd encourage them to do that. If they do not have that, then they should be waiting for a message from their site principal who will let them know when they're going to be posting. And that will occur later on this week. We always do it. Everyone always has a lot of anticipation, but it always is towards the end of the week, fairly close to when school starts.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Lisa Aguirre, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. Would you talk to us a little bit about professional development for teacher and parent training that's expected to happen take place this quarter, this semester?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. What I'd like to do is talk to you about our redefining learning with a purpose. As we've changed into distance learning, we have to look at how we are changing the instruction that's happening within the classroom. With all the professional development that has been developed, we want to make sure that we're supporting teachers in their providing high quality, rigorous grade level content expectations. So at this time, I will share the professional development that has been taken place. We started last week with opportunities for teachers who had the time to come back early, and it was focused on some of the tech tools that teachers are going to be using this semester. Within the tech tools, we also had some of our core curriculum that the teachers got to experience with the tech tools. These sessions, they were available last week, but they were all recorded. So teachers will have the opportunity to view them this week as well, and also next week. The first day of our school year for all of our instructions begins on August 12th. And on this day, we have different training opportunities for teachers. It'll be consistent throughout the district. We want to make sure that we are supporting and giving time for teachers to make sure that we're providing the instruction that is needed and consistent across all the grade levels. On the 13th of August, this Thursday, we're really focusing on our core curriculum that is board adopted. Through all of these trainings, we're also using the tech tools that teachers will be using to deliver the core curriculum so that it's together and not in isolation. There are different opportunities based on who the teachers are and what they will be teaching. It continues on, scroll up. Then the first week of school, we continue on this first week, there is a special schedule, and I'll show you that. And so there's continuous some professional development, as well as time for teachers to really digest all the information that they've heard, all the learning, and really sit and plan and collaborate with their colleagues to make sure that things are set in place for the following week. So the first week of school, as you've probably seen before, we have a special schedule. Students will have synchronous whole class time, which means that every morning for the lower elementary, the students will see their teachers. Their teachers will provide synchronous instruction, which means that the teachers will be live with the students, do classroom routines, teaching about the norms, teaching about the class agreements, and smaller activities. And then students will be released to do asynchronous instruction, which means that the students are going to complete the work on their own time. And so for the remainder of the day for the teacher, there's collaboration, professional development built in, that teachers then further learn all of the necessary core curriculum and instructional tools and play around with their Google Classroom and make sure that they're really prepared to dive hard into the next week. During this first week with our students, what we're also doing is students will be provided learning opportunities. And I'm scroll up for the first week for secondary so you can see it. Students will be provided learning opportunities for common sense media, which is really looking at different media, the expectations when you're online, really the etiquette, really the safety, and they'll also have professional development on how to organize their Google Classroom so it's easy to access the materials. They'll have watch a video on organization and how do you have a learning environment at home that'll help them in their learning. And then also there is a couple others. They'll be looking at the different learning programs that they'll be using. And then for parents, we have many different opportunities for parents to look for training for that week. We have for our younger kids, which are TK through third grade, we're asking that parents watch the common sense media, which is the safety internet, the internet etiquette, and have this. And then as a parent, you have those conversations with your students on what does that mean. Also, how to access the tech hotline So if for some reason you can't pull up a Google Meet or you can't get into a Google Classroom, where do you go for help? Looking at the weekly planner. So there'll be a video that really shows you how the layout of the student weekly planner on the expectations of your child for that week in terms of live Google Meets with their teachers, the learning objectives, so what it is that they're learning that week, and the classroom work that's to be turned in. There's also videos that'll be pushed out about Chromebook basics on how, if you've never had the opportunity to interact with a Chromebook, on really what is a Chromebook and how do you navigate it. The weekly schedules, Google Classroom, Parent View, which is a communication tool, and then also Synergy, which was mentioned earlier, and then Seesaw, which we're going to be using the Seesaw platform for our younger students. And that's all going to be happening in the first week, where you'll find out more information, not only in a hard copy packet, but also you'll be getting the information pushed out through your child's Google Classroom. Expect to see emails as well as phone calls in regards to that. So for the secondary, the first week, if you look, students on the very first day of school, they'll be meeting with their advisory tutorial teacher from 9 to 9:30. And then after that, they'll be doing asynchronous learning for the remainder of the day. And then starting on Tuesday, students will meet their teachers in periods 1, 3, and 5, and then Wednesdays 2, 4, and 6. One thing I do want to mention at this time is that for our elementary students, attendance will be taken 1 time per day during a synchronous, a live meeting. For our secondary students, attendance will be taken every period as well as the advisory period. So it is important that your child is present during all live synchronous meetings. On the regular day schedules, so let's do a 4th, 5th grade. Just a reminder of what the school week would look like. The synchronous whole class, that'll start every morning for our students. They're going to start with the whole class live synchronous meeting, where teachers have the opportunity either to do some social emotional learning, to do the morning routines, to get your student ready for the learning that's happening that day. They may show them the agenda. If you're a secondary, if you have a child that's in secondary school, then their advisory class, they'll go over their weekly planner, and they'll have lots of different opportunities for the teacher-student interaction. This will happen daily, the live class meetings. And then for our elementary students, there are different synchronous opportunities that are in smaller groups, as we know that small group instruction is really meeting the needs of the students of where they are. So they're getting the learning at where they're needed. And then there's a lunch every day. And then the day always ends, regardless of the grade level, with office hours and Google Meet check-ins with students, so that students do have the opportunity to connect with their teachers. Here's a middle and high school schedule. This is a daily. This will begin the 2nd week of school. And so I'm going to return it to the 1st week and go back to the elementary for our 1st through 3rd grade. And with that, I went through and summarized some of the different learning opportunities that we have for teachers. Our whole goal and focus is to make sure that teachers feel supported and prepared to teach in the new environment, and the learning will happen with purpose, and it'll be rigorous, engaging, grade level content that is pushed out and that students will be learning. And with that, Alicia, are there questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. I just want to make sure and point out that our parents and any community member can find these samples of these schedules in the contingency plan. You will find a link to it. It is a very comprehensive document, about 64 pages, but you will find a link to it in every one of our websites, to the Spanish and the English contingency plan. So thank you. I do have a couple of questions, Lisa, from a parent. One of them says, not all parents can do morning live classes. There needs to be an option for online afternoon classes. How are you going to manage that situation when they are not able to participate in morning classes?
So I'm assuming that we're talking about students participating in the, okay, so for students, we have our class schedule, and that students do need to attend the schedule as presented in the live sessions. What we're going to find out is that we do have, which Assistant Superintendent Chris Shouse will be presenting in a little bit, about students who are not able to access the live meetings, the different processes that we have in place to help support those families to ensure that our students are getting the live synchronous instruction. But it is important that we try to, as much as possible, have our students attend.
Alicia, you're on mute.
So that is an expectation that our students are ready to learn in the morning. Thank you for that. One more question, Lisa, for you, please. Can students receive packets to work from instead of computer work if both parents are working and unable to log into the computer?
So we are going virtual classroom in the beginning for our younger students who were not on distance learning last year, that had the packets, are very young ones. There'll be, in the beginning, there will be some packets, but it is 100% distance learning. So we are giving out Chromebooks and hotspots and different opportunities for students to log on. Through the process as we go, and we find that students are not able, for whatever reason, to access, we'll be reaching out to the families to find out how we can support and engage their learners, so that all students have the opportunity for daily live interactions with both classmates and also their teachers.
Thank you, Lisa. I'd like to now ask if Mr. Kasey Klappenback can speak a little bit about the SIPS work using Seesaw, as well as special education matrix. Kasey?
Good evening, PVUSD families. I'm so proud to be here to present on this, and I will share my screen. If Lisa, if you can help me out so I can share. All right, thank you. All right. So as on the screen in front of you is actually the daily schedule for our 1st through 3rd grade students. So it's exciting because we have actually blocked off an hour a day to provide synchronous small group instruction, which is hitting the foundational literacy skills. Because we know how important this is, we have actually blocked off that time. So students receive small group instruction at their level during the week, during this time. So we are expecting that, like Lisa was saying, that we get our students set up for this schedule and this routine, because these reading skills are detrimental to all the other subject areas as students progress through their academic careers. So every single day, so this is for 1st through 3rd, has the designated 9:45 to 10:45. So that's not saying that your child will participate for the whole hour in their small group. They are more likely to be pulled for a small amount of time in a small group for probably 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the grade level. And then after that, they're expected to be able to use our Seesaw platform or the actual instructional SIPS materials that we have printed for students to practice their reading skills after. All right, so as we move to the next slide, what we're trying to replicate is, as you can see, one of our schools, Radcliffe, this classroom, before we went into school closures for COVID, we have students practicing their SIPS reading, those multiple practice opportunities throughout the day that we know our youngest readers need. So what we have practiced in spring and this summer, as you can see in the left-hand corner, we have one of our 2nd grade students where their parent has helped set up a little school office, and they're actually receiving live SIPS instruction. And they are, as you can tell, she is completely engaged. She has her whiteboard out, which Dr. Rodriguez was sharing will be provided. So our students can actually practice their decoding and encoding skills right there. And then with the use of Seesaw, so over here to your right is actually, we've uploaded our SIPS materials to Seesaw, that digital learning platform that Lisa was talking about before. And students can actually practice their reading and record it for their teachers. It's one of the great things about Seesaw. And then it becomes a digital learning portfolio for our students. And the magic in this is that our teachers are actually able to use their SIPS materials to the live instruction over here and give responsive teaching. They are also able to give opportunities for feedback and practice as the students are recording themselves and during those live sessions. And then we are implementing our SIPS mastery assessments. There's these short formative assessments along the way to make sure that our students are progressing and are responding to the instruction virtually, right? And so that will continue to drive this process. And then there's Seesaw, our friend, that's helping us, that digital piece that we will continue to support our teachers. Like Lisa was saying before, that we are providing PD so our teachers are able to use this. We've trained, some of our teachers have already been trained and been using this before, and now we are helping them along and providing that support so they can do this every single day virtually for their students. And we will also be making sure that we're providing the same foundational skill support for our students in the dual language and bilingual programs. All right. And so, and then the last thing that I will be presenting on and showing, I know there are some, as I'm jumping subject areas, we also, I would like to also hit on our individualized distance learning plan for our students who have IEPs, and we're having, our teachers were using the matrix identified in the spring. It has transformed into an individualized distance learning plan. So every single student who is receiving our special services, their case manager, the teacher that is in charge of handling their services, meets with their the team that is supporting the student, and they are identifying the best way to contact the parent together. They are also looking at the services that are offered and were agreed upon before, and the frequency. So as even though we are providing them through teletherapy and in a digital fashion, we want to make sure that everyone knows the frequency and duration of those services as they are adjusted or chunked differently based on the digital environment. We also want to focus on, we will be focusing on their IEP goals to make sure that we are addressing them through distance learning. And then the method of instruction that best supports those students, because all students have the unique needs. And then also it gets them to collaborate and make sure that all of their accommodations, appropriate accommodations and supports are also provided throughout distance learning. And then at the end, they finalize, and the case manager or the team, it'll be different in each situation, will make sure that they contact the parent and that they are aligned and have reviewed how we are proceeding to continue those services during distance learning and school campus closures. And yeah, and Alicia.
Oh, yes, I do have a couple of questions, Kasey, that came from parents. You did talk a lot about IEPs, and I want to, this question is in particular from a parent by the name of Edgardo Herrera. He's Spanish speaking. He says, if my child needs has a 504 plan, how will the school prepare to ensure that his virtual classes are effective?
All right. So first of all, if they have a 504 plan, it is a legal document, and we want to make sure that we are continuing those services, those accommodations and supports in the distance learning environment. So on each school campus, there is a 504 designee, and that's a different person depending on if you're on an elementary campus or a secondary campus. And they will work with the classroom teacher to make sure that they are aware of those accommodations and supports that are provided through the 504. They can also, a parent is also welcome to reach out to the classroom teacher to make sure they are aware of that. But our process is each year, just like if we were live on campus, is that those 504 plans are shared with the classroom teacher and they are aware of them. And then annually we do review them and make any modifications and changes at that time with the parent.
Thank you, Kasey. I know Lisa spoke briefly about making sure that students do have to be present at the beginning during their synchronous learning. There is a question by another parent, Kasey, that I'd like for you to address. It is about attendance. It says, if we are working all day, will we be able to be counted for attendance if we work with our children after work every day? And that is from Malabella Maravilla, a parent at PVUSD.
All right, so again, just to reiterate what Lisa was stating too, is that we are taking an elementary school, we are taking attendance during synchronous instruction. So they have multiple opportunities throughout the day to have their attendance taken. So we want to do everything we can to structure our routines, just like if students were on campus, to make sure our students are taking part in that synchronous learning, right? Which is much more effective than when students are on their own, especially for the new learning. So again, Ms. Shouse will be sharing in a little bit about the interactive dialogue process that will help us follow up with parents and students that are not able to engage in having struggles, so we can support them and brainstorm and come up with different ways where we can get them into that synchronous instruction or come up with another option.
Thank you, Kasey. That's a perfect.
Lisa, if I can just pitch in just for a second. So what I'd really encourage parents is whoever is taking care of the child during the day, that they encourage the child to that child to be online at that time. If they're an older student, I'd encourage them to set those timers, set those alarms so that it reminds the child to go online. So very similar to what they'd have to do if they were actually in school. We want them to do it. Please do not feel, especially with synchronous learning, please do not feel that you have to be there while the child is doing the learning. It's more about in helping support and prod them to get online, to be present with their teachers, to be present with their peers. So a lot of what we saw in the spring dealt with feelings of isolation and not being able to connect. So that's one reason why we have all this time built in for peer collaboration and for synchronous learning.
Thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Very important. And this is perfect time for us to introduce Ms. Kristin Shouse, Secondary Assistant Superintendent. She's going to speak to us about the wellness team process for non-participating students and safe spaces. Thank you, Chris. You are muted, Chris.
Unfortunately, I caught it too late when I was sharing my screen, so apologies. Hopefully you can hear me at this point, correct, Alicia?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you for Dr. Rodriguez for having us as well to be able to speak about pieces that are certainly passions of ours as well. A big piece of this is looking at wellness teams. So I know that both Kasey and Lisa also referred to this area in terms of what do we do when every measure that we have is in place. And then we still have some students that may or may not be able to participate for various reasons. So really a piece that we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of was what wellness teams look like and what the process is going to look like. So we do know that we have some non-participating students for various reasons. The first really regulation of what we look for is for teacher support. So as teachers are observing pieces or areas of concern that may be challenges for families or for students, that's really the first area that we look at to be able to get information and really try different options. So you'll see in that lower level box that it really is our teachers getting to know our students, their families, working with our families and communicating with them to see what some of those areas of concern or supports are. In most cases, a large chunk of our students are able to have their needs met in that realm, just by having that fluency of communication with our teachers, as well as those that are providing support, if they have support providers in addition to. But sometimes that doesn't always work. The needs may outweigh what the teacher is able to assist with as well. And that next band there that you see, which is that orange area, is really where it goes to the site wellness team. So site wellness team encompasses various folks within the site, from your general education teachers to special education folks, our psychologist, a site administrator, our counselors. So it varies depending on the site, but really what you're looking for is a cross-section of all of the folks that provide a different level of support for our students. With that comes a different way of looking at what those needs may be, and then providing that support level that may be identified through it. So things that came up that you kind of heard right now may be the need that a student has an additional piece where they do need that additional packet based on where they're at. Or we do have another need for, can we provide a tech support access? So things that a site can remediate and get our students back into learning with the correct level of support would be areas of focus for that site team. The last tier really of support is when that team goes through all of the pieces that they're able to accomplish a student then being able to re-enter and be able to be successful, really becomes our district wellness team. So that is assembly of every different department within the district, from student services, attendance, counseling, parent outreach, our extended learning program, technology, special services staff. There are members from every single subdivision of department within our organization that meet to look through the additional needs for non-participating students. In most cases, the areas of need fall into one of those categories. So what we do is we look through and we see what the students' needs are, and I'm going to show you a slide shortly here in reference to that and some of the factors that we're looking at. And then we match the students' needs or the family's needs to that particular department to work through some additional support measures that we have. At each layer, the supports that are available become a little bit more deep in outreach. And you'll see what some of these pieces look like on this next slide. So as you can see from examples of a site level support, it may be the need to move forward with daily or weekly check-ins. So to Dr. Rodriguez's point, that place of kind of prodding or checking in or saying, hey, Kasey, how come you still haven't joined us online? Those pieces may be that piece that is needed to help kind of keep our students moving in the right direction. Could also be that daily or weekly check-in with a family. We noticed that your student's having some challenges. Let's try setting that alarm clock. Let's see if we can take a look at check-ins where you're calling home during your breaks to say, have you gone to your class? Here's how you check Synergy to see if your student went to your class. So some of those things that we can help with at the site level, in addition to our individual tech liaison supports. So again, as our students are moving through this process, the expectation of them also being supported in learning how to turn on their device, be ready to go, have it charged the previous day. Some of those things that sometimes students need a little bit more time to walk through or have a process to and a reminder. Then you'll also see those examples at the district level supports in regards to in-person counseling sessions, both ongoing and virtual. Home check-ins when it's available, or a wellness check. So making sure that we're also safeguarding our folks, but when it is necessary and we're in proper PPE gear, that can happen. In addition, looking at partner referrals. So we work very closely with PVPSA, Encompass, and Monarch to support mental health needs. The LORD team is something that we really had the opportunity to rebuild and talk about what would that look like collaboratively between PVPSA and PVUSD. And the Valor team, for those that are unfamiliar, essentially has specialized a lot with our students that have really high levels of suspension as well as expulsions, right? So they generally are kind of the case manager folks for re-entering our students and giving them some opportunities that are pretty critical to their success. So that Valor team has really moved their level of working with expulsions. As you could imagine, we do not have those in play with COVID. So it's allowed us to repurpose that resource which will allow us to provide an additional layer of specialized counseling, case management, and then even small group facilitation within student needs that we have. You'll also see on there mentoring programs, as well as the homeless and foster youth tutoring, and then that lead piece where I said that that department lead will continue to be supportive of the family until we are able to reach success. The entire point of the wellness teams is to get to a place and not stop until we get to a place of supporting the family and the student and being successful. And that could mean a program change. So something similar to what Lisa was indicating earlier with, if they're not available and we have a student that is, currently working, then this is also a place where site level as well as district level starts to talk about what options are available to that student. And that option could be available that we're looking at a program shift to virtual academy or another program that would allow the student to then take their coursework and not be in the same position of being in that attendance function during that 1 through 5 period piece. So there are opportunities for every student as well as family to be able to be successful as we move forward in this. And the district's committed to continuing to make sure that we exhaust all of those pieces until we find something that's workable. Some of the areas that we look at during that student interactive dialogue process include what services they're already receiving. That ranges everywhere from a student that may have an IEP, 504, counseling needs. They may be identified as a migrant student or an English learner, as well as a GATE or an accelerated student. Everybody has a very specific need, and this is, again, not an exhaustive list, but they are factors that we look at to be able to support. You'll also see reasons of why some students have had issues or challenges within accessing distance learning. Those needs are also met with the departments that are reviewing the pieces between the site level and what the site has tried, what the teacher has tried, and then what we're able to provide as well. And then lastly, as we go through that student interactive dialogue process and we determine that there still may be a few pieces, that need to be remediated by having folks in what we call a safe space. The district does have some safe spaces available. In order to utilize those safe spaces, students and families actually are identified through that student interactive dialogue process. So a few reasons why that occurs is to maintain the ability for us to create those compliant, stable groupings, as well as to ensure the physical distancing piece. So as families go through that student interactive dialogue, things aren't working out as well, and we've tried different options, there is the possibility that that family then is informed and notified that we're going to try a safe space environment. So that could be a family that is assigned for various reasons based on that interactive dialogue form, but you'll see the noted schools that are in there. So keep in mind that it's not just students at that school. So for one of them, Radcliffe Elementary is one of those designated spaces. It does not mean that Radcliffe Elementary students are the only ones that go to that school. So to that point, the stable groupings are pretty critical. What we essentially do is by area, we then move forward with those that are assigned to it. We give you the student placement and the site that they'll be going to. So we're able to really make sure that our groups are stable and that our students' needs are still met, but that we're also doing that in a way that is safe and compliant with what we're currently in regards to the county level supports. And with that, Alicia, I'll take whatever questions you may have.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it. Yes, I have a couple of questions. One of them is from a parent, Cynthia Fernandez. What can we do if our internet is super slow and we will have 3 devices going on at the same time? Will my child be docked for it?
No, we're not in the place to be docking students. What we will do is we'll troubleshoot with the family. So what we'll begin looking at is if they're using their own provider and we have 3 students in the same household on the same provider, and that tends to be an issue at times, then we would look at a hotspot to carry part of that load so that both devices will be able to work. That would be one of our first places that we would troubleshoot. But again, as we go through site wellness teams, if that still is exhaustive, the family could be eligible for one of our students to be able to maintain that safe space while our other 2 are able to stay at home. So that really would be an area where we would work with the family. But in all reality, if we're able to carry some of the load with hotspots, which are still available, then that's what we would move to first.
Thank you, Chris. There is another question that I think is very popular amongst parents and families. Rosa Alvarez, a parent, asks, what options are available if a student needs help from a teacher For example, high school math, I think tutoring services, and that is a very, it's a very common question. So I would really like to hear what you have to say about this one, Chris.
Absolutely. First and foremost, our families should remember that access points to teachers, please continue to utilize the same pieces that you would in a physical space. So I know that you can't come to the site, but in general, a lot of our families contact us through telephone, through email. All of those are still practical and viable options. So please reach out to your students' teachers. I would also encourage folks to really take and utilize the office hour space. So as Lisa indicated and showed the schedules earlier, I know you referenced them for our parents too in regards to being able to see them on the PVUSD.net as well as the rest of our school sites. If they go into their grade level specific schedule, they'll see the office hours of that grade level. So it is absolutely a place where families can be able to attach or expect that they're also going to get communication back. So, if a student was struggling, and especially with our secondary as well, absolutely still use the same measures to contact your teachers as you have in the past. But during those office hours, that is designed to be able to assist families and students as well.
Thank you, Chris. We don't have very much time left. I cannot believe how fast this hour went. I'd like to see if we can do some closing remarks from each of you. Maybe I'll start with Lisa, if that's okay, Lisa, some closing remarks.
Yes, just really quickly, I'd like to just say that we at Pajaro Valley Unified School District, we have worked really hard to redefine learning so that there is connection between teachers and students and families, unity in our community, as well as it is purposeful instruction that is delivered to all students.
Thank you, Lisa. Kasey, how about you? You are muted, senor.
Thank you. It's rare that I'm muted, right? So I just would like to really say that how excited we are to partner and to engage with them this upcoming school year, whether we're doing it digitally or coming back eventually on site, possibly, but to really partner also with their schools and their teachers and have that communication. We invite them. We want to continue really strong reciprocal communication back and forth with us and them, because we are definitely, like you said, Lisa had shared, we want to have that sense of unity, right? Together as a team. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasey. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'm going to go with connection. So I think the idea really behind continuing to connect with our families, different doesn't mean that it's not exciting. And I think as we launch the school year and get into a different time and place with this, we're excited. We've all had the pleasure of being able to be with our site leaders over the course of the past couple of weeks. They're excited. Several different conversations with teachers about what it looks like differently than what it did in the spring. And I just can't say enough about continuing to be a community and stay strong in the connection. And, we may not always have exact answers on each piece, but we will definitely work as a team to continue to find the best ways to support our students and our families through this time period. So thanks all for allowing us to be a part of the process too.
Thank you, Chris. And before I pass it over to Dr. Rodriguez, I would like to mention two very important things that are for all of our families. We have the tech support line. It's going to be 786-TECH or 786-8324. Every one of our community members, family, students can reach tech support with that number. And the second thing is that the computer repair and replacement, the Chromebook repair and replacement services is actually expanding their hours and locations. They will be at 2 sites, at Cesar Chavez and at Aptos Junior High on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 9 a.m. until 12 noon. So but make sure you call the tech support line before you show up, okay? And then any closing remarks from you, Dr. Rodriguez?
Yeah, so what I think everyone will find is that the planning that has been going on for the last 4 months, so all of us here have been working with PVFT, CSEA, site leadership, district leadership to ensure access and high quality instruction for students this upcoming year. So we took the exact feedback that was provided in the 2 surveys that came out, and we made modifications to the distance learning model off of that feedback. So I'd really encourage everyone to utilize the supports that we have out there. So one thing that was requested is better access to staff, both principals, assistant principals, teachers, counselors. And so that is the very reason why we have the office hours. So please utilize that. We also heard that isolation and not having peer connection was a major issue. And so that is why we have time for a small group, whole group, and in the morning we are doing SEL work, which is social emotional learning. So we hear you, we want to support you. And so just know that those times are important. So the most important thing that you can do is to ensure that your child is ready to go when the time starts. So have them go to bed at a reasonable time, have them wake up so that they can be prepared for the learning. And I know that it's hard with a lot of people in the house at times, but have them wear their headphones, their earbuds, so that they can hear well, they can be heard well, and provide the small and the most quietest space that you can. Even if it is in a little area, it will benefit them greatly. And so it was mentioned, so I'm just going to share it. It was mentioned quickly what our theme for this school year is. And so I want everybody to know we're launching this this evening with my welcome letter back. But we really are looking to redefine learning, continue to redefine what it means to be a PVUSD student, what it is to be a student in distance learning. And we're doing it through 3 things: through connection, unity, and purpose. And if you look at that, connection is a C, unity, the U, and purpose as the P. So we want you to fill your cup. So we're going to continue to fill your cup every single day, because we are here for you. We are here to serve this community, to serve our students, and to serve our staff. And we appreciate you being here tonight. Always, you receive every Friday, you receive the FAQs from me. We have these conversations with the superintendent. I encourage you to access all of those areas in order to be able to really have reciprocal communication with us, two-way communication, and to know what is happening. We support you, and we know together we'll continue to do wonderful and great things for the students, which is the very reason that we're here. So thank you, and good night to everyone. We appreciated having you here.
Thank you. Good night.